Please stand. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "To you who hear I say, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. To the person who strikes you on one cheek, offer the other one as well. And from the person who takes your cloak, do not withhold even your tunic. Give to everyone who asks of you. And from the one who takes what is yours, do not demand it back. Do to others as you would have them do to you. For if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do the same. If you lend money to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners and get back the same amount. But rather, love your enemies and do good to them, and lend expecting nothing back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High. For he himself is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as the Father is merciful. Stop judging, and you will not be judged. Stop condemning, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and gifts will be given to you. A good measure, packed together, shaken down, and overflowing, will be poured into your lap. For the measure with which you measure will in return be measured out to you." The word of the Lord.
Praise be to you, God.
In hearing those words from the gospel, how did it make you feel? How were you feeling when you heard those words? Anyone? This is called a dialogue homily. It's challenging. And the gospel takes place just after the Beatitudes. And the Beatitudes are really the manifesto of what it means to be a Christian. And now Jesus is gathering his disciples and saying, guys, if you really want to follow me, this is the deal. And if you just break it down to those statements, it's really hard. I mean, I have a kind of hate, actually. If I'm going into a store, I'm walking into a building, and there's someone behind me, I would kind of hold the door for them, and let them pass, hoping they would say, "Thanks very much." And sometimes they do say that, and that's very nice. But occasionally they don't. And rather than just sucking that up, I always say, "You're welcome." Just kind of proving a point. But actually, it's not really Christian, really. But you just want to sort of say to them, "I did something quite nice here," and yet you're just ignoring the fact. And that's kind of common, I think, for all of us. We want our actions to be to be acknowledged. Correct? We do. It's just part of our human nature. And yet, what we're hearing here is Jesus saying, don't have any of those expectations. If someone strikes you in the face, your first reaction is to defend yourself and maybe even strike back. But what we hear in that gospel is like, offer the other cheek. Be a pacifist. And that's hard. Or if someone gives you some tongue, there's some back chat, my automatic response would be to give back chat back. It's something that I don't really want to do, but it's something that almost automatically comes from my mouth. And yet, what we're hearing in this gospel is not to say nothing at all. If nothing, even more so to pray for this person, be in dialogue with this person, and not to retaliate with something that's negative, with something that's more positive. So it's almost going against our human grain. And yet, as a presider, I'm also aware that we all come from different walks of life, all of us. And we come here with our own story, with our own struggles, and our own joys, and the things that make us who we are today. And to make some blanket statement about the platitudes of the gospel can almost slap us in the face, especially when maybe life isn't that great. And neither does, I believe, God want us to have those negative experiences for ourselves. Like all parents, you want the best for your child. And you want them to feel loved, first and foremost, so that they can move from that place of love and acceptance into a place where they feel they have the ability to move with it, to give love in response. So when I was reflecting on the readings for the last couple of days, I was just being aware of my life and where things have taken me. And I remember when I was preparing for my ordination, and after 7 years of training and 7 years in seminary, it was literally a month before my ordination in Glasgow. And I went on a retreat. And I had a nun who was actually my spiritual director. And I was kind of sharing with her that I was feeling the pressure of going towards ordination and also the responsibilities in which that entailed. It was becoming now a reality rather than just a concept. And I just felt that part of me and where I was coming from didn't have the right to be instructing or helping other people in life. Because other people have expectations of you also, and what you should be doing or thinking. And certainly it would knock you down on your pedestal as soon as you uttered any words, particularly your family who have known you all these years. And I come from a very large family. So Rita, my spiritual director, suggested that for me to clear my mind and just to get into the retreat and enjoy this moment of preparation was to go for a walk. And the retreat house was actually set in a beautiful countryside and had the River Clyde running through it. Really beautiful area. And I remember it was a kind of late afternoon, early evening point. And I walked down to the river point. And I remember just looking at the stream of the river, and there were some ducks in the water. And I was just observing the ducks. And they were playing with one another and then ducking into the water and just coming out. And as they were coming out, you saw the elation in them in feeling that just it was good to be alive. And seeing the water coming from the feathers and just the light hitting it. It was just a beautiful moment. And ducks being ducks, enjoying life. And somebody said to me, Jim, just get into that moment. Get into the moment of allowing God to just enjoy Jim Rooney. And Jim Rooney just enjoying life without having expectations. So I moved from this area into the creative art room. And I like drawing. So I took some crayons and a big, large piece of paper. I said, draw something that represents your life just now and where you see yourself in relation to God and where God has been part of your journey. And certainly the cross is there, the figure of the cross. So I drew this big wooden structure, right, solid wooden cross. And then I said, but this cross isn't dead, it's alive. It's a tree of life. So then I started grounding it in roots. So I put it into the ground, and you saw the roots going into the ground. It was alive. It wasn't something that happened 2,000 years ago. It was actually part of my journey now. So I had these roots in the tree or the cross. And then I said, what brings the nourishment from the ground into this tree, this cross, is also leaves, branches. So I started drawing these branches and coming from all parts of the cross to represent that the crucifix just didn't happen, but also many years ago. It's part of our journey, every part of our life. So I had this almost tree-like shape now on my piece of paper. So I began to appreciate that God's love in Christ was in nature and was growing in nature. And you could observe it in nature, but also in our human form. So where was I in this then? So I went back to my wee ducks earlier on, and I chose to represent them as birds. So I had a wee bird flying in the sky. And that's Jim Rooney. When Jim Rooney is happy and he's reaching his full potential and he's enjoying life, enjoying friends and all those kind of things, and he's feeling that he's doing good, he's doing works of justice, works of charity, he's involved in his family and his friends, he is top-notch. He is flying out there. He's enjoying just being part of life. But there's also times when Jim Rooney isn't that great either. And Jim Rooney wants to retreat somewhere. So then I drew this wee nest. A nest called home. And this home would be a place where I would retreat to. Even when life wasn't so good. When I wasn't feeling the best, or maybe I was being misunderstood, or I was not really appreciating the situation, I would go here and recoup or lick my wounds or whatever it may be. But it was a place where I could call home or just enjoy life. So this is my icon. This is my image of Jim Rooney in my relationship with God. And it made sense to me then. And so this is like 27 years ago. And I actually discovered it about a year ago when I was cleaning out the house. And I looked at it, and I thought it was a wonderful piece of art, I must say, then. But do you know, when I looked at it, and it was beautiful, and I saw the beginnings of new shoots, but it also showed me a gym rooney that was tight, a gym rooney that wasn't really open to the elements or was not allowing the full potential to be released because of the influences that were around me. I couldn't be who I was. And then I wanted to take it from this frame photograph page thing and then start drawing it again to change, update it. But I said, that would be wrong, because it's good to appreciate from where you came to where you're at now. Because in those 27 years, I've encountered many people and many circumstances and many situations where their story has influenced me and allowed me to change myself into someone who was somewhat opinionated and thought they knew everything under the sun, who would be willing, although at the time I thought I was much more open, but I saw the finger being pointed to, and now it's hopefully less pointed towards others, but more inward in myself. Why am I telling you this story? In fact, Joe and I were talking this morning over the breakfast table, and we're talking about how we get our values, where we got our values. And we talk about our family, from your mom and your daddy, your siblings when you're younger. But as you grow up, you get it then from other places and other organizations which you join. And that's basically what's happening in our gospel story. Our God isn't one who wants to point fingers, but wants us more to reflect on our relationship with ourselves, but more importantly, our relationship with God. How has God embraced me? How has God allowed me to even be abusive to the wonderful gifts that have been showered on me, and yet still says, I love you? Think of the many doors God has opened in our lives. And we have walked through them willy-nilly and not even acknowledging it, saying thank you. And God has never said, you're welcome. But instead, he's allowed us to walk those portals of life and to experience life as we have to be experienced and to learn from it and take it to heart. And then hopefully, in seeing that relationship with ourselves and God and seeing the immeasurable love that's been poured into us, and the time of forgiveness, the time of joy, the time of celebration, the time of giftedness, in those elements in which we have taken and ran with, but also times in which we have done nothing with. We've hidden them because we're afraid of them. And those relationships that we are invited to heal, but because of time or space or lack of connection, we have chosen to ignore, but are still elements of brokenness in their own lives. The Spirit of life invites us to appreciate that first and foremost, we have partaken in those things in our own life with God. But yet, this God still lavishes those things on us. Nothing, but nothing is ever taken from us. There's always a giving, there's always an outpouring, there's always a joy. That's why you're here today. You are recipients of God's love. Call to mind your family, call to mind your friends, call to mind how you got here in the first place. Allow that to be a moment of gratitude. Because nothing is by accident. Nothing. We are here by the grace of God. So the gospel story invites us to believe that nothing is impossible. Because if we will allow ourselves to be the measure of what we have given out, then nothing is possible. But the very fact that we measure ourselves not on ourselves or other people, but on the love of God, then everything is possible. Everything. Allow us to be instruments of peace, instruments of grace, instruments of joy, because all those things are contained within ourselves. Everything. The bread in which we'll be sharing and the wine that we'll be pouring out are also instruments of God giving himself. And we are partaking in this meal, so we are fed by it. Not only to quench the hunger and the thirst in ourselves, but also hopefully in our society, in our community, in our family. I'll end with a quote that's on my ordination card. Out of our beliefs are born deeds. Out of our deeds, we form habits. Out of our habits grows our character. And on our character, we build our destiny.